We are in the Marsh Gallery at the Herron School of Art and Design. It's a gallery that's set among studio spaces, professors' offices, administrative offices, classrooms, so it's kind of in the heart of the academic world. And we are in an exhibition called Making Memory. And the exhibition features work by 6 second-year M.F.A. students at Herron. And all of the pieces in the exhibition address the issue of memory in some way or another. Liz Wiersbicki is a student who produced a work that's a series of pill bottles and pills. She made the pills out of sprinkles and capsules, and she developed these pills to help address, to help cure the incurable. And her pills can be combined in many different ways to address all sorts of different situations. There's a time regulator, there's a pill that cures inflated thoughts, things like that. I was talking with her in her studio and we decided that it would be great to combine her pills in a way that would be a little cocktail to treat memory, whether it's for an individual who wants to remember what really happened or wants to forget what may have happened, or who wants to have kind of a beautiful memory that may not correspond to actual events. Hillary Erin Russell is another student. Her piece is a really moving video performance in which she literally eats a hard candy gun. And the piece, I find it to be a really moving kind of exploration of her recollections related to the suicide of a close friend. And it's a really tight shot of her face. You can see her shoulders a little bit, but the expression on her face I just find really moving as it sort of goes through these changes over the 6 minutes of the video. At first, eating the gun is a way of taking control of the situation, taking control of a really difficult memory, but then the sugar just becomes quite literally sickeningly sweet. She can't handle it anymore, and an expression of distress kind of just takes over. I find it very moving even just to talk about it, because I think it connects with the viewer in a really stirring way. The third student in the show, going around the room, is Michael Helsley. Like Hillary, his work is grounded in a personal experience of loss. Here we see sort of a crouched figure silhouetted against a large window in the gallery, and surrounding the figure is a mobile of speech bubbles or thought bubbles that can kind of represent the way that these thoughts and memories can flood our minds, sort of swirling around us. They change, but they kind of come back around, and the figures are surrounded by this sea of protective ice cream sundaes, kind of like the way that we turn to comfort food. But what I think is interesting about this piece and why it's such a great fit with the show is it really explores the sort of cyclical nature of memory, specifically as it's related to mourning. The next piece is by Stephen Baker. His sculpture is sort of a material and visual representation of his experiences, remembering and forgetting, and remembering again the time that he spent in Iraq with the Army National Guard. And the piece is sort of structured in a way that leads us up and then brings us back down, kind of the way that he's described in writing and in conversation with me, his experience of navigating the ways in which feelings related to difficult memories can change over time. So the next piece in the show is actually a piece that I put together. It is one of the many interpretive tools that I've kind of added to the exhibition. It's a document vitrine, and in it I've put my materials that I used for planning the show. There are a lot of papers that are tucked away in folders, but I've pulled some of the documents that I thought would be most interesting for viewers to read, and often exhibitions, I find, tend to be, especially in art museums, tend to be very self-effacing, so all of the labor that goes into putting a show together sort of vanishes into the background when the gallery is installed and the show is open. But I like to bring a little bit of that back into the space, so I've included a couple of texts. John Collins McCormick's piece is a sound piece that records the sounds in the gallery and plays them back on a 60-second delay. And the piece is not particularly visually oriented. It's really meant for just the viewer to become a listener, put on headphones, hear the sounds of 60 seconds ago. One of the things that I'd really like listeners to think about is how a space might be able to hold a memory. So we often think about how people have memories, but spaces and places can hold those traces of past experiences as well. At least I think that they can. And I think that this piece does a really good job of capturing some of that, even though it's only 60 seconds ago. Especially in an echoey room like this, we're kind of already reminded that sound lingers and that it's held by the vessel of the room. His piece taps into that, I think, in a very effective way. So the final piece is a piece by Ellie Ingram, and her piece is related to McCormick's piece in that it is also about how memory operates not for people but for things. She's a printmaker, and her piece, it's actually a series of dry point prints. They're very small, it's about 2 inches squared, and there are several dozen of these prints arranged in a circle. To print a large edition like the one that she printed is a real test of the capabilities of the medium that she's working with. But it also raises a really interesting question of how do materials remember and how do materials forget. I'm very pleased with the ways in which the different pieces in the show work together across the space of the room. That's something that was really important to me as I was putting together this exhibition. That said, one of the things that I've tried to do with this show is pull together pieces that ask questions about memory in different enough ways so that hopefully everyone who comes to the show will connect with one piece.